Do mutants exist? The answer is unequivocal, yes. The whole history of evolution is a constant mutation of organisms in order to adapt to changing environmental conditions. But there are mutations forcibly imposed on nature. And it has to do with human impact on the environment. And the most terrible and unpredictable way to do this is exposure to radiation. On April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant, located in Ukraine, experienced the largest man-made nuclear catastrophe in the history of the planet. As a result of the explosion, the reactor's active zone was completely destroyed, releasing a vast amount of radioactive substances into the environment. According to scientific estimates, the total power of the explosion exceeded the power of the nuclear weapons used during World War II by more than 100 times. Unlike the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the explosion resembled a very powerful, dirty bomb, with the main damaging factor being radioactive contamination. Approximately 200,000 square kilometers of land were contaminated, which is more than half the total area of Italy. Over 600,000 people were exposed to radiation. For safety purposes, a 30-kilometer quarantine zone was established around the power plant, covering an area of nearly 4,000 square kilometers, which is now known as the Chernobyl exclusion zone. This area was considered highly irradiated and was prohibited from human access. Numerous cities, villages, industrial facilities, farms and nature reserves ended up in the exclusion zone. Decades of exposure to elevated radiation and the absence of human presence have left a lasting impact on the nature in this area. Flora and fauna underwent mutations, and the absence of humans contributed to the uncontrolled reproduction of mutated animals. Even now, more than 30 years later, the exclusion zone is home to plants and animals whose existence is hard to believe. The Red Forest, the most affected area near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, covering approximately 200 square kilometers of forest, received the largest share of radioactive dust emissions in 1986. Within 30 minutes after the explosion, the trees turned a reddish-brown color, hence the name. According to witnesses, the forest even glowed in the early days. Many trees dramatically changed their growth direction. The trunks and branches started to twist and transform actively, taking on the most amazing shapes. Many other plants also underwent changes. Mushrooms of enormous sizes grew, but some animals avoid them. Even now, the Red Forest remains one of the most contaminated areas within the exclusion zone. However, it is precisely there that the most unusual creatures can be found. This animal was caught on automatic video cameras near the reactor. It looks like a deer, but without a neck and horns. Or maybe even without a head. This creature was discovered by stalkers. What it is and why there is a seal on it, no one knows. Perhaps this is an animal that escaped from a secret laboratory? There are many rumors about secret laboratories in which experiments are carried out on mutated animals. Rescuers found this creature in the sewers of the city of Pripyat, located next to a nuclear power plant. It turned out to be a pig, but with a human-like face. How he got into the sewers and what he did there is unknown. This strange creature was found in the Red Forest. Whether it's a plant or an animal, no one has figured it out yet. Scientists have suggested that this is a water worm, but why is it then in the depths of the forest? This video was filmed by an eyewitness from Canada. He claims that people in special costumes carried away a creature with a human body, but with a fishtail. This is how mermaid stories are born. Abandoned pets have also undergone mutations. They quickly ran wild and began to actively multiply, and various mutations began to appear in their offspring. There is ample evidence of mutated dogs, both with visual defects and odd behaviors that seem to help them survive. Over the past period, at least 12 generations of feral dogs have grown here. Now their genome is markedly different from that of all other dogs in the world. In the farms of the Narodichi district of Ukraine, for example, in the first 4 years after the accident, about 350 animals were born with gross deformities, such as missing or extra limbs, missing eyes, heads, ribs, or a deformed skull. Another place of concentration of mutated animals is the cooling pond of the reactors of the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant. This creature was discovered by stalkers in the cooling pond of a nuclear reactor. It looks like both fish and reptiles. Common catfish living there have become huge. They have also acquired hunting skills that do not belong to them. Hiding in shallow water, they attack approaching animals and birds, more like crocodiles than fish in their skills. Cases are described when especially large specimens of catfish attacked people. Despite everything, people continue to live in the exclusion zone. They can't be banned because they have nowhere else to go. The tragic history of Chernobyl has become an inspiration for many authors. The very popular Stalker game, a series of books of the same name, and even several films were created. But I really hope that the authors, in the future, will be inspired by their fantasies, and not by real tragedies. In fact, mutations are quite common in nature. They allow living beings to adapt to rapidly changing external conditions. And the Chernobyl zone is a vivid confirmation of this. The official authorities declare that there are no mutants in Chernobyl. But how do you know? The Chernobyl zone is very large, and we do not know what its radioactive expanses hide.